Hey, this will be one of the final reviews of the Team Liquid Map Contest 10. This is Fracture by Avex, one of the finalists of the Team Liquid Map Contest 10 of the standard category. It is a very pretty map. I really like the aesthetic of it, the tile set specifically. I'm not really a fan per se of the new hate map and how they make look the transition of the textures. They look fine, but it doesn't make me like relish it. But yeah, going into the review itself, the map looks fine. Going into the review itself, the thing that I love to do, and that is like hate on people. So the mineral line to start over. That's all. The changes in order to allow for people to micro their workers and allow for more stable games and blah 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 blah. Especially in the early game, whatever the main base is breached for whatever thing. Now that they will be doing, yesterday I think they published the balance changes for the future balance changes, and they will be changing the mineral the overlord drop bot, and overlords won't be like as disgusting as they used to be regarding PVC and overlord drops with sterlings and paintings. But yeah, even then, still do the like very small change, and it is a quality of life thing. Regarding the map, the area in the back of the main base is probably too small, and it will be cut in this. So yeah, there you can see there is the blue line is the edge of the map, the blue line of the edge of the map itself. Units can't pass like beyond it, so you can park like couple banshees, couple disgusting stuff in here, so a liberator or whatever, and the units can't reach it. This is something that I think will be like heavily discussed, at least with like couple pro gamers. I'm not sure, like this is a standard map which is more in the aggressive side of things, and even then I'm like kind of icky with this area, but that is like very metagame and balance dependent. For example, Protoss hiding like oracles and whatnot against Terran. Terran doing like Liberator memes against Protoss and Zerg is not something that I find like particularly interesting. But I'm more of the old school, so when we didn't used to like do this kind of stuff. Maps like Cloud Kingdom or any kind of like nowadays legacy map. It is not like very much thing that they have like huge swaths of airspace behind mains, other than like a couple maps that you could count with your fingers. So going into the map itself, this is the version where I didn't do quality assurance. This is the version that Avex sent. So any kind of bug I think I might have fixed or whatever thing. But yeah. Also, there is also the other disclaimer that many of the things that I will mention here, Avex has already fixed them in his own version of the map. So this most of the stuff that I will be talking will be things that have been already fixed, but it will be more of a lesson to whoever hasn't like fixed mineral lines. But yeah, first of it all, I just hate. Oh, there we go. I just hate this thing. You can't. It almost like made me like rally against the map like 100%. That you can't like easily wall off. No, you can easily wall it off, but it's not a standard wall at the main ramp. Avex made sure that Terran can like easily wall off, but Protoss is like can't make like their own standard walls. There is this little space here that I spoken earlier. There is there are like no flight zones with liberators with areas that could have been like changed in order to make liberators less of a problem. The urban cliffs, yeah, like increasing slightly the area. This it is not the end of the world, but it makes it easier to deal with liberators without needing to add like no fly zones. It is not really recommended like at all to use no fly zones in maps like anywhere other than some very specific areas. For example, you want to cut a corner of the map where you don't want units to like go around into, you can like put a line of no fly zones. But other than that, in areas where like there will be like rather heavy usage of air units, such as this kind of areas where drop queues will be like going in and out, it is not really recommended. So yeah, the mineral line itself, it is fine. It is the same thing as I said before. Maybe move this, but it is dependent on if siege tanks can reach and stuff like that. There is the other trick with the 3 Vespian geysers that can be seen by enemy overlords in order to ease up scouting for the Zerg players. It is a good map because you can wall off this area with Zerg buildings because creep like reaches like right after. Regarding the map itself, the third is a good. It is a solid distance. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed click in there. It is like a solid distance, 40. It's okay. I usually the preferred distance nowadays is like somewhere between 45 to 38, 35 even, somewhere around that. There is this area which is kind of key regarding the cliffing, in order for the river jump and whatnot, but it is also fine. This area where I'm not sure if I clear up, where units can like get in here and be kind of tricky for Zerg to deal with, I usually just add like a couple do that and that's over. Overlord pods, they are like a little bit far, but there is also like this back space, so it is kind of okay. Regarding the third, forward third, the back third, I also had like a considerable discussion with Avex regarding this specific dot cluster in here, because the it makes it harder to hold your own third, because any army that comes down from the high ground will have a harder time. Will have an easier time like trying to snipe the third than otherwise, because the army will try to park in here, and as you can see, any building which is placed, any army, it will generate, it will choke up the concave by the defender's army, meanwhile allowing the attacker's army to form their own concave. And this small chunk of do that also slows down any advance from the defender's army that will come from here towards the aggressor army. And in this case, if the player is, for example, a Terran or a Protoss, it will try to place Immortals or Siege tanks around the high ground. And those can like shell out some serious damage towards the defender army. And in order to fix that, the preferred method is just to like chop up the Duda cluster a bit and move it slightly to the north in this case, and in the symmetric side to the south, something like this. And as you can see, that like seriously opens up the area like considerably in comparison to how it was before. Not only that, but it makes an aggressor army that will try to position itself to bleed toward the north in order to have like a better attack angle towards the third. It makes it like slightly harder for them to do that, especially if there is like some static defense around this place. So yeah, do that small change that is a quality of life change for players trying to defend their third, especially from attacks from the high ground. Regarding the center of the map, this is something that I discussed and it is has already been addressed to a certain degree. And that is probably, as you can see, that's probably too choky. Like in game, this area looks like fine, but when you see the pathing, like it becomes like rather choky. And this was exploited a little bit in the matchups. I think it was Innovation against True. I'm not sure, in the Team Liquid Map Contest tournament, where the Innovation went like a huge amount of siege tanks and so had like roaches, hydras, and was trying to surround the army, meanwhile trying to get higher tech, but he wasn't really able because Innovation had like a huge amount of tanks. And thus enters into like an entire like feedback loop where the army gets like basically out of control because of the chokiness and because you can't really surround as well. So yeah, I'll try to open up the area a little bit, as much as like as much as any decent human being would like try to. Not really, because it looks fine as it is. Like this one, that already looks like makes it look like considerably better. But just that little edge. Regarding line of sight blockers, they are well positioned, but there is something that I had missed regarding the quality assurance process, and that is that these things block the air unit side, and that is something that people like shouldn't really be playing around much with, because these players have been taught that this kind of line of sight blockers do something very specific, and that is that they block the line of sight of ground units, not that they also block the line of sight of air units, and they also just, it is not a good meme, guys. So yeah, try to avoid doing like very specific knowledge things such as those, especially for the standard ladder maps. Regarding the high grounds, there is the corner bases that are, I really like them, but I consider that they should be like slightly more easily defensible. And in order to address this, if I recall correctly, Avex places some 4x4 or 6x6 rocks on this ramp, and that is because players will like try to take their, in order to allow just players to take their corner bases instead of their forward bases. That's to give them more options. The high grounds, it is very well positioned, even when it looks like kind of standardish. It's like the epitome of a standard in level design for StarCraft to have like two center high grounds in this way. Even then, I consider them to be like very well positioned. Regarding the distance between third to third, the forward third is like very close, especially for what players are used to. This is like kind of a even kind of a Russian standardish map. It is a very aggressive standard map, so that's for sure. And regarding the central diagonal rocks, I really like them because they force different army movements around the map. They force players in order to take different attack pathways than just attack from the center, which is the natural the natural attack path that players will prefer to take. So that's why I think that on most maps that map makers should try to allow a central attack pathway that works basically only through the early game, and force players to move towards the sides of the map as the game progresses in order to make the map experience more interesting. So yeah, besides that, there is not much else to mention. There were like there is the air blockers is like no good. The third bases are fine. The fourth bases are, it is a well crafted map, except for those, right? Except for the air blocker. Maybe the main base, but that's something that needs to be like discussed with with some pro gamers regarding metagame development and how they feel the back of the main base should operate, especially for today's metagame. But other than that, I think Overlord bot around the 6 and 12 positions, maybe here, maybe there, or maybe there, in order to allow for scouting for Overlord positioning, in order to allow for scouting for any possible attacks towards the 4th base, like harassment parties of aliens or link rambis. So yeah, it is a solid map. I'm like, Avex doesn't like it very much, but I think that it's alright. It's a solid finalist. So yeah, this has been Fracture, a finalist of the Team Liquid map contestant of the standard category. See you guys in the next one.